Welcome back to the channel. My name is Ruben and this is Rattle Can Rebuilds. A few days ago, I posted a video where I picked up this 2009 Buick Lucerne Super for $500 and we're in the process of rebuilding it to see if we can make some profit off this car and flip it. The car has quite a bit of damage. The front bumper is damaged, the rear bumper is damaged. We've got several leaks, a couple of windows don't work, and there's just a lot of little stuff that needs to be done to this car before we can get it sold to make some profit. But we do have a lot of parts and I'm ready to get to work, so let's jump in. Here is a quick tip for you guys if you're getting into the flipping car business. I would recommend when you go to the wrecking yard, get yourself a handful of plastic clips. It is good to stockpile these things because they break constantly, and trust me, you will be breaking tons of these if you work on as many cars as I do, and these things are invaluable to make sure things go back correctly. So I always like to get a handful of those, and random bolts and fuses. Always good things to pick up. Quick little tip for flipping cars. Here are the window regulators I was able to get at the wrecking yard, and these ones are in perfect condition. I am going to clean them up a little bit and kind of grease the wheels because the one on the car, that wheel bound up and the cables got stuck, and for some reason I think that's kind of a common issue on these cars. And here's the one for the front end. Same thing with these, they have a cable inside and they run off these pulleys, and that's what helps the window go up and down. But I will install these and I'll show you guys how these go into the car. Very easy fix for windows that are not going up or down. I started to find a lot of evidence that somebody had previously worked on this car that had no mechanical experience. There were a lot of damaged components and they never assembled anything correctly. Everything was forced out and forced back in. This window channel I found at the bottom of the door. That's why I had to take the glass out to fit it back in. And there's the reason our window didn't work. The cable bound up in the pulley. I was working on getting the front regulator replaced, and we ran into an issue where the splines on this regulator do not match the one I got from the wrecking yard. It is a different style on the regulator. I went back this morning to get the bumper and I went through every Lucerne that they had there. None of them had this style, and I think it's because it's automatic up and down, and so you have to get a specific one for the Super. No biggie. I found one on Rock Auto for $60, I believe. So I have that on order. So we're just going to have to wait to do the front window. But I did get the one for the rear and everything matches up. So let's jump to the back and we'll go ahead and drop this puppy in and see if we fix our window issue. Now, like I had previously stated, somebody else has been in here and tried to fix this at one point, and they ended up breaking a lot of the trim on the door panel, and some of the door clips and a lot of other stuff was damaged. So it added extra work to an already tedious job, but I was able to get it done. Before I can put the door panel back on, I have to fix these broken tabs. They slide into these slots here, and this is what really holds the door panel onto the door. And the last Neanderthal that worked on this thing just yanked on the door. He also broke the tabs that hold the wood trim in place. These doors have the weird mechanism where these little slots here slide into these plastic retainers that are on the door, and you have to slide the door panel upwards after you pop these pins out. And of course they broke a couple of them, and they didn't just break the actual push pin, they broke the whole holder assembly that goes on the door. So unfortunately that can't be fixed without me actually popping these off and epoxying new ones in place, and I really don't think they're going to hold anyway. So I'm just going to fix this at the wrecking yard. I was able to get some new pins or whatever you want to call these things. So I'm going to install those in really quick, and then I can put the door panel back on. The window regulator repair went really well. It's working perfectly. Now I'm going to focus my attention on the front bumper. You guys saw in the first video, it had some damage on it. So I want to repair it because it is still savable. And I think we can do that with plastic welding. Now, I'm not going to show you the entire repair process because it is kind of boring and tedious. I'm just going to show you what I use and what I do to fix it. I already started on it a little bit and it's turning out really great. So let's go take a look. There's what I've got so far, and it's not going to be perfect because there are chunks missing out of this bumper. But just so this piece isn't flopping in the wind, I think it's going to look fine. We'll put some Bondo on the front because we're going to paint the whole bumper anyways. And then these are the little pieces of metal I use. They're part of a drywall repair kit. Here's another one. And all you do is go to the Dollar Tree, buy that, take those little pieces out, and they're big, like 5 by 5 inch squares, and then you can cut them into strips. And you can see one right there that I used. All right, guys, take a look. Not perfect, like I said, but a million times better than how it came in. This thing was flopping around. It had, I mean, these cracks were wide open, and I think it looks a lot better, especially right here where there was a giant hole. Now, it doesn't look perfect now, but I filled it in with a zip tie, and I used a soldering iron to melt it. I also added plastic here, and everything is reinforced from the back like I showed you guys. So that is never going to come apart. With some Bondo and sanding and paint, you'll never even know that that happened. So this bumper is ready to go. Just needs to be painted, Bondoed, sanded, all that good stuff. And then we can throw it back on the car. I was even also able to fix these little tabs here that hold the grill in place because some of them were broken off like this one, but now they're First thing on our list of mechanical repairs is this leaking power steering pressure line. This thing is leaking from the crimp here and also from the one back there. Let me see if I can get you guys a view. Fluid on it right there. And it literally just pours out of that crimp. So this thing's got to go. And in its place, we have this nice shiny one that I got from Rock Auto. The Elite Heavy Duty one. These are very good power steering lines. So we're going to jump in there and replace this one really quick. We got a connection up here. We got to feed it down through the back and then where it connects to the steering rack. Okay. Broke it loose. Well, I just tried yanking on this thing from up top here, and of course it did not want to come out. So I climbed back underneath, and it is bolted to the block. It is bolted to the engine block. Let me show you guys how far this 10mm nut is. There it is, right there. You can barely see it. I got my light pointed right on it. We are way back here. So I got to get like 5 extensions to reach that sucker. Yes, I am extremely dirty. As you just seen in the last clip, I was struggling getting that power steering hose out. And I tried to pull it from the top, not happening. I ended up having to fish the top half of it down to the bottom and pulling the rest of it out through the bottom. It's just really hard because there's a bunch of O2 sensor wires down there, so you have to be really careful not to yank those out. But I got it out. That was not fun. So let's put the new one back in. This should be really interesting. Now that we got our power steering hose fixed, no more leaks on that end, we're gonna jump onto the suspension. When I first got the car, the previous owner said that the engine mounts were bad. I did a visual inspection of the mounts. They didn't look bad.
Now let's just pause really quick because one of those mounts did actually turn out to be bad, so it looks like the guy knew what he was talking about.
The engine didn't have the symptoms of a normal engine mount being broken, which is the rocking back and forth. Now there was clunks on acceleration, and when I got underneath the car and looked, I noticed that the sway bar links were completely gone. They had rusted all the way through. So I jumped on Amazon and I ordered a set of AC Delco sway bar links. So let's get into it. Oh, wow. Take a look at what's left of the sway bar link. Passenger side and driver side. Now look at that tie rod end. I have ordered new tie rod ends, but they won't be in until later this week. So we'll do that repair another day. Now let me show you guys what we got going on in the engine. These repairs are gonna start to get a little more serious. Let me show you what I found when I pulled these out. Stick my ratchet down in there. And we've got oil. This coil here was completely saturated with oil. So that means that our spark plug tube seals are leaking, and so are our valve covers. If we go underneath the car, you can see tons of oil leaks. So I did order an oil pan gasket, valve cover gaskets, the tube seals. Now they're not gonna be in for another couple days. So right now we're just gonna take this stuff apart and prepare ourselves for when they get here.
As I was removing the bolts to the valve cover, I realized that one of them was inaccessible without moving the water pump tensioner and water pump pulley out of the way. Now, I had no idea that this water pump was run off of the camshaft. Now, I was a little bit annoyed that GM decided to run the water pump off of the camshaft, but boy, was I not prepared for the world of hurt that had coming my way with this valve cover gasket replacement. Now, you would think that after removing all these parts, the valve cover would just simply come out of the way, but nope, GM didn't want it that way. They will even sell you a special tool just to get that pulley off of the camshaft. Now, after removing that tensioner assembly, I was finally able to get to that bolt, but there was still just not enough room. And aside from that, this engine bay was absolutely disgusting and covered in dirt. So I decided, you know what? I'm just going to take the entire front end off.
Now, I know what you're thinking. This is quite ridiculous just to get to some valve covers. Really, it isn't that bad.
Okay, pause again, because really, it isn't that bad. That's what somebody says when it is that bad. Trust me when I tell you there's a lot of stuff to remove. There just wasn't enough time in this video.
There's just a lot of stuff to move out of the way, but once you get the stuff out of the way, it's pretty easy. And I'm kind of doing a little bit of overkill. You know, there is plenty of room to get to it now, but I do want to take the cooling fans out. And to do that, I need to create a little bit more space and pull the radiator and AC condenser forward more. So I took off a little bit extra stuff, and that way we just avoid getting any kind of dust, dirt, or debris inside of the engine when doing these valve cover gaskets. I want this repair to be a good repair, and I want it to last a very long time. So I want to do it right. And yeah, it looks kind of intimidating, but really it's not that hard. You just have the right tools and the mindset of you're going to get it done, and it's doable. So right now I'm going to continue to plug away and remove the radiator fans, and then we'll have enough space to finally get that valve cover out of the way.
Now, he's not lying. When he says to remove as much stuff as you can out of the way to get to these valve cover gaskets, he really means it. The more stuff you can get out of the way, the easier this job's going to be. So I just went all out and took off everything that was in my path from getting to these valve cover gaskets.
I was finally able to get the cooling fan out. It fought me quite a bit, and I'm worried when I have to go put it back in, but we'll worry about that later on. For now, let's continue with the valve cover.
Now, like I said earlier in the video, GM makes a special tool to get this pulley off. And of course, it was impossible to find. So I went to Harbor Freight and I found this. And this tool worked amazingly. Now, after I got the pulley out of the way, there's this little plate that's held in by 3 7mm bolts. And yeah, I dropped one. I did end up finding it, but it was a pain in the ass.
Oh, wow. Finally! We finally got the valve cover off, and as you can see, it was desperately in need of changing. So I am very happy that we decided to take on this job because I don't want to sell the car leaking a ton of oil. And the next owner will definitely be very happy that we did this $3,000 job and took care of it for them so they can continue to drive this and get a lot of miles out of it. And I honestly really did not expect us to have to remove this many parts just to get this valve cover off, but I am very happy that we decided to do it because it definitely needed it. This car is leaking a lot of fluids, and we already took care of one of the big ones, which was the power steering line, but we still have an entire other valve cover gasket to do and the oil pan gasket as well. You still have to do the motor mounts, the tie rod ends, a few other odds and ends, get the pumpers painted, restore the headlights. So we still have quite a bit of work. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. It helps me out a lot more than you know. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit that little subscribe button down there in the corner on your computer, on your phone, wherever you're at watching me right now. And please make sure you stay tuned while we continue to rebuild this 2009 Buick Lucerne and see if we can turn a profit on it. All right, I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I will see all of you guys in the next video. Peace.